සැත්කම් සඳහා ස්ථාවර අවමගාස්තු දැන් නවලෝකෙන් අමතන්න 0.71
Number of infections that were confirmed yesterday from the subcluster at the Peliyagoda fish market was 188. They were identified as residents of Dematagoda, Kotahena, Kaduwela, Kalaniya, Kiribadgoda, Wattala, Kadawatha, as well as Moratuwa in Vellampitiya. Accordingly, 250 PCR tests were conducted at the Jayala Municipal Council grounds on fishmongers and customers who had visited the Peliyagoda fish market from the areas of Jayala, Kandana, Vellampitiya and Batagoda. In the meantime, 20 fishermen were diagnosed with COVID-19 following 100 random PCR tests that were conducted on members of the fishing community in the area of Beruwala yesterday. All of them are long-time traders at the Beruwala Fisheries Harbour and have been identified as residents of Beruwala, Maggona, Munhena, Nallahena, Moragalla and Maradana. Taking this situation into consideration, health authorities took measures to close the Beruwala Fisheries Harbour and conduct 700 PCR tests on their close contacts today. Steps were also taken to close the Beruwala Pradesh Sabha building and the Aludgama fish market today. Meanwhile, health officials closed a fish stall in a shopping complex located in Homagama today after the owner of the stall was diagnosed with the virus. 10 employees of the stall were directed to self-quarantine. In other developments, another fish stall at the shopping complex in Ratnapura was closed today after the stall's owner's COVID-19 diagnosis was confirmed. Health authorities took measures to direct around 100 persons for self-quarantine in the area of Muagama of Ratnapura. The owner of the fish market had reportedly visited the Peliyagoda fish market. Elsewhere, an employee at the Peliyagoda fish market, who is a resident in the area of Padalangala in Emilipitiya, was confirmed as a COVID-19 patient. After returning to his home on the 16th, he had visited several places in Emilipitiya, as well as several locations in the locality of Padalangala, including its weekly fair. Accordingly, 20 persons, inclusive of 9 of his family members, have been directed for self-quarantine. Meanwhile, the son of a fishmonger residing in the area of Bulugahapitiya in Peliyagoda was diagnosed with the virus. He had reportedly bought fish from the Peliyagoda fish market and delivered it to his father's fish shop in Peliyagoda. Persons residing in 15 houses and employees of 10 shops identified as his associates have been directed to undergo self-quarantine. In another development, a fishmonger residing at the main street in Veligama in the area of Mathara, who had visited the Peliyagoda fish market, was diagnosed with COVID-19. Due to this, 12 persons involved in fish trade in the area of Veligama have been directed to undergo quarantine. In the meantime, out of 166 PCR tests that were carried out in relation to the Galle Fisheries Harbour yesterday, 5 persons have tested positive for the virus. As a result, health authorities took steps today to obtain information on those who had visited the Galle Fisheries Harbour and temporarily close it. Meanwhile, health authorities took measures to temporarily close the main post office in Galle after a COVID-19 infected patient was identified to have visited the post office. In other developments, an employee at the Colombo dockyard who took part in a funeral in the area of Katuvila in Ahungalla was recently diagnosed with COVID-19. 3 members of the house where the funeral was held at were confirmed with the virus. With this being the case, health authorities took steps to impose travel restrictions in the areas of Ahungalla, Katuvila and Galvehera. Meanwhile, the final rites of the country's 14th COVID-19 victim was held today at the General Cemetery in Kolonava. The 50-year-old woman had been suffering from a heart-related illness as well as from diabetes and kidney disease. Elsewhere, a 26-year-old COVID-19 infected person who was being treated at the Koskahama Regional Hospital escaped from the hospital this morning. He had visited the Peliyagoda fish market and is a resident of the area of Sedavatta in Vellampitiya. The police, however, found him on the 13th floor of a house at the Sahaspura housing complex in Boralla. In the meantime, the Government Information Department announced that a total of 609 fresh COVID-19 infections have been confirmed from the country today. In another development, it was announced today that no island-wide lockdown will be imposed over the weekend. The Department of Registration of Persons, meanwhile, has decided to suspend its public services, including the one-day service due to the prevailing COVID-19 situation in the country. Accordingly, its head office and all provincial offices will remain closed until further notice. However, issuance of national identity cards will continue to be carried out at the departmental units in divisional secretariats. Clients who had already made prior appointments to obtain national identity cards and are yet to submit their applications have been requested to submit applications to the Grama Niladaris of their respective areas or divisional secretariats as soon as possible. The one-day service fee will not be charged for these applicants and their national identity cards will be delivered via post without delay.